My name is Nora Bennett. I'm 42 years old and I own a small bakery cafe called Morning Bell in Cedar Falls, Iowa. 6 weeks ago, my 18-year-old daughter spent 11 hours preparing a birthday dinner for 28 members of our family to celebrate my mother turning 69. At 4:22 that afternoon, while the roast was resting and the birthday cake was cooling on the counter, my mother sent one message to the family group chat. Plans have changed. We'll be celebrating at the Hawthorne Club tonight. Adults only. 7:30 sharp. I called her once. She declined the call. I did not argue in the chat, beg anyone to reconsider, or drive to the club wearing the navy dress she had selected for me. I made one quiet decision instead. By 9:10 the next morning, my mother was standing outside my front door holding a white bakery box and waiting for me to decide whether she was still welcome inside. My mother had spent her entire life entering family homes without knocking. That morning, she rang twice and remained on the porch. To understand why, you need to know what happened inside my kitchen the night before and why one canceled dinner finally ended 30 years of my family confusing obedience with love. I opened Morning Bell 9 years ago in a former pharmacy with cracked tile floors and windows that shook whenever freight trains passed through town. I had worked in bakeries since I was 17. First washing sheet pans, then decorating cakes, then managing early shifts for owners who believed 4 in the morning was an excellent time to discuss profit margins. When the pharmacy building became available, my husband, Eric, and I used our savings, borrowed against the house, and opened with 6 tables, 1 oven, and a second-hand espresso machine that hissed like it resented customers. The first year almost ruined us. The second taught us what people actually ordered. By the fourth, Saturday lines reached the sidewalk. I became known for cinnamon rolls, rosemary biscuits, and remembering who wanted extra foam without making them ask. Feeding strangers for a living taught me something important. Gratitude is pleasant, but clarity is essential. A customer can dislike a pastry and still behave honestly. Family is more complicated. Family can consume everything you make, criticize how you served it, and insist they are doing you a favor by attending. In my family, I was not ignored exactly. I was useful. My older brother, Trevor, was admired. My younger sister, Camille, was protected. I was dependable, which is the family word for the person expected to arrive early, stay late, and never send an invoice. My mother, Evelyn Hart, controlled family gatherings with the precision of an event planner and the sensitivity of a border guard. She decided which holidays were formal, which children were considered old enough for the dining room, who brought appetizers, who brought something appropriate, and who was asked to use disposable containers because their cookware did not match her table. She believed presentation revealed character. Wrinkled napkins suggested laziness. Store-bought pie indicated poor planning. Arriving after the salad meant you were not serious about family. For most of my life, I accommodated those rules because resistance created more work than compliance. I made the Christmas pastries. I prepared the bridal shower brunches. I catered Trevor's promotion dinner even though he introduced me to his boss as the sister who likes to bake. When Camille's twins were baptized, I produced 4 dozen lemon tarts while Mother received compliments for organizing such an elegant reception. I knew the arrangement was unfair. I simply believed unfairness was the admission price for peace. Then I had a daughter and, without realizing it, began teaching her to pay the same price. My daughter's name is Sophie. She had turned 18 2 months before my mother's birthday and had already been accepted into a culinary program in Chicago. Sophie is quieter than I am, but not timid. She notices everything and announces very little. At 12, she could detect missing salt in soup before I tasted it. At 15, she redesigned the bakery's closing checklist because she was tired of finding unlabeled cream in the walk-in. She works Saturday mornings beside me, receives an actual paycheck, and argues with customers who claim muffins do not count as breakfast unless they contain bran. She shows affection through preparation. If Eric mentions a loose hinge, Sophie appears with a screwdriver. If I work late, she leaves dinner in the oven with reheating instructions taped to the handle. When my mother's 69th birthday appeared on the calendar, Sophie decided she wanted to cook the family dinner herself. My mother had been talking for years about how nobody made food the way her own father did. Great-grandpa Walter had owned a roadside supper club and prepared Sunday meals for 6 children, their spouses, and anyone stranded nearby by weather or car trouble. Sophie spent 3 weeks reconstructing his recipes from half-legible cards, family memories, and arguments between elderly relatives who disagreed about whether his gravy contained coffee. She called each household and asked for one dish they remembered from a family celebration. Uncle Peter requested pot roast with onions cooked until they disappeared. Cousin Mallory chose honey carrots. The younger children wanted mashed potatoes with a browned butter well in the center. My mother's favorite was Walter's black walnut layer cake, a recipe no one had made since he died because the instructions said things like, enough flour and bake until settled. Sophie tested the cake 5 times. The first collapsed. The second tasted like sawdust. The third was good, which annoyed her because good was not the point. On the 5th attempt, she called me into the kitchen, handed me a fork, and watched my face. It tasted like the slice my grandfather once gave me from the kitchen after Mother said children should wait for dessert. Sophie had found it. She paid for the dinner herself with wages from the bakery and money she had saved decorating cupcakes for neighbors. I objected when I saw the grocery total, $412. She closed my wallet and said, I'm not buying Grandma an object she'll put in a cabinet. I want to give her a memory. She created 28 place cards using cream cardstock and dark green ink. Each card had a small drawing connected to the person, a fishing lure for Uncle Peter, a trumpet for my cousin's son, a tiny rolling pin for me. My mother's card was bordered in gold and read Grandma Evelyn. Sophie placed it at the center of the long table rather than at the end. No head seat? I asked. People talk better when nobody is hosting from a throne, she said. I laughed, but the sentence stayed with me. I knew my mother well enough to confirm the arrangement repeatedly. 4 weeks before the birthday, I sent her the date, time, guest count, and menu. She replied, that should be acceptable. 10 days later, I asked again while helping her carry groceries inside. Saturday at 6:30. Sophie's cooking. Nothing else is planned, correct? Mother adjusted a bouquet in her hallway before answering. Yes, Nora, I understand how calendars work. Her friend Lenore was sitting in the living room sorting invitations for a museum fundraiser. Mother glanced toward her and added, it will be informal, of course. Nora's home is very comfortable. Comfortable was one of Mother's dangerous adjectives. It could mean pleasant, inexpensive, or not suitable for anyone important. Lenore smiled and said the Hawthorne Club had just redecorated its private dining room. Mother said she had heard. I noticed the exchange and chose not to investigate it because Sophie was excited. The plan had been confirmed, and I did not want to manufacture conflict before anything had happened. That was the last time I protected my peace by ignoring evidence. On the morning of the birthday, Sophie woke at 5. By 6, music was playing softly from her phone and every counter had been assigned a purpose. She taped a cooking schedule to the refrigerator with tasks organized backward from serving time. Eric collected borrowed chairs from the cafe. I brought home platters and warming trays. Sophie prepared the pot roast, honey carrots, mashed potatoes, buttered peas, sourdough rolls, and black walnut cake. She also made a vegetarian mushroom pie because 2 cousins had recently stopped eating meat and she wanted them to know she had listened. Nothing was extravagant. That was what made it beautiful. Every dish carried the memory of someone invited to eat it. At 3:30, the table was set. At 4, Sophie showered and changed into a green dress she had bought with Camille 2 weeks earlier. She came downstairs with damp hair, saw flour on one sleeve, and laughed instead of changing again. At 4:22, my phone vibrated beside the sink. The message went to the entire family. Mother wrote that Lenore had surprised her with the Hawthorne Club's newly renovated private room. Cocktails would begin at 7:30. Dinner would follow at 8. Adults only, because the club preferred a mature atmosphere. She ended with, I know everyone will understand. A private message arrived seconds later. Nora, bring the walnut cake if transporting it will not damage the presentation. I read both messages once. I did not need to read them again. Sophie stood 6 feet away, slicing parsley over the carrots. Her phone vibrated on the counter. She wiped her hands, checked it, and became very still. She canceled? Eric asked from the dining room. Sophie placed the phone face down and stared at the meal she had spent the day building. The club doesn't allow anyone under 21 in the private bar after 7, she said. She knew that. I asked how. She told me last month when I asked if I could apply for a summer kitchen job there. That detail removed any possibility that Mother had overlooked Sophie. She had accepted a birthday dinner cooked by her granddaughter, then selected a replacement venue that barred the cook from attending. I called Mother. She declined the call and texted that she was at the salon. I wrote, "Sophie has cooked since 5 this morning. 28 people are expected here in 2 hours. Please call me." Her answer arrived 3 minutes later. Lenore went to considerable expense, and the club is more fitting for a milestone birthday. Sophie can prepare her dinner another weekend. Please don't create an unpleasant situation. Sophie read over my shoulder. She did not cry. She walked to the oven, checked the roast, and said, "We should start cooling things before they spoil." That practical sentence hurt more than anger would have. I asked her to stop for a minute. She began removing serving spoons from the platters. "It's fine, Mom." "No, it isn't. I mean, I'll be fine." I didn't really expect her to choose this. She said it gently, as though protecting me from embarrassment. In that moment, I understood that my daughter had not been surprised. She had hoped, worked, and spent money, but somewhere inside her she had already reserved space for rejection. She knew my mother's habits because I had normalized them. Every missed concert, shortened visit, and family event arranged around Mother's preferences had been followed by one of my explanations. Grandma is particular. Grandma has a lot on her mind. Grandma loves you even when she doesn't show it properly. I had thought I was preserving their relationship. I had actually been teaching Sophie to distrust her own disappointment. The family chat remained quiet beneath Mother's announcement. Trevor responded with a champagne emoji. Lenore posted a photograph of the private room's new chandelier. Then private messages began arriving. Camille had 2 12-year-olds and no sitter. Cousin Mallory had 3 children under 9. Uncle Peter cared for his grandson on Saturdays. Mother's adults-only celebration had eliminated 12 of the 28 invited guests with one sentence. Camille wrote, "Is she expecting us to leave the twins at a gas station?" Mallory asked whether our dinner was definitely canceled because her children had made birthday cards. Uncle Peter simply wrote, "Walter would have hated this." I called Trevor because he had always been the person Mother listened to when anyone could persuade her. He answered from his car. I explained the food, Sophie's exclusion, and the families who could no longer attend. He sighed before I finished. "It's Mom's birthday." It was also Mom's birthday when she agreed to this dinner. Lenore probably surprised her. Mother knew the club's age rule. He paused. "Then bring Sophie by before dinner. She can give Mom the cake in the lobby." "You want the person who cooked the meal to deliver dessert at the entrance and go home?" "Nora, don't phrase it like that." "How should I phrase it?" "As one evening that doesn't need to become a family crisis." That was Trevor's gift, turning cruelty into a public relations problem. He warned that if I refused to attend, Mother would remember it for years. I looked at Sophie folding napkins she no longer believed anyone would use. "So will my daughter," I said, and ended the call. Eric initially suggested we attend the club for one course, make an appearance, then return home. He did not say it because he agreed with Mother. He said it because, like me, he had spent years treating her anger as a dangerous weather system that needed to be navigated. Then he walked into the kitchen and found Sophie transferring the food into storage containers. She had removed her green dress and changed into a bakery sweatshirt. On each container, she wrote the name of the person who had requested the dish. She labeled the walnut cake freeze for cafe special, then stood looking at those words. Eric took the marker from her hand. "Don't pack the cake," he said. Sophie shrugged. "Nobody's coming." He looked at me. "Are we certain of that?" I did not have an answer yet. I wanted to give Mother one final opportunity to correct what she had done. "This time," she answered. Before I spoke, she said, "Nora, I hope you are not planning to embarrass me over food." I kept my voice level. "Sophie is the reason there is food. Here are 2 options. We bring the dinner to the club and serve it in the private room, or we keep tonight as planned, and you use Lenore's reservation tomorrow. Nobody loses their gift." Mother laughed once, without humor. The Hawthorne Club is not a church picnic. It's your father's menu. It is a teenager's interpretation of my father's menu. You haven't tasted it. That is not the issue. Then tell me the issue. She was quiet for a moment, and when she spoke again, her voice became colder. The room seats 14. Lenore invited people from the foundation board. It is an elegant evening, Nora. Children running between chairs and casseroles on borrowed platters are not the atmosphere I want for my birthday. There it was. She had not changed venues because of a surprise. She had traded the family dinner for a social opportunity and expected the discarded half of the guest list to applaud her taste. I asked whether Sophie was expected to remain home after cooking for everyone. Sophie is 18. She is old enough to understand that every event cannot revolve around her ambitions. This event was built around you. Then she should be pleased. I accepted the thought behind it. Before hanging up, Mother added, you and Eric will be at the club at 7:30. Do not make me explain your absence. And if you turn this into a spectacle, you can host Christmas without me. She ended the call believing she had delivered a punishment. Instead, she gave me a clear view of the choice. If I obeyed, Sophie would learn that family peace required her to clean up the meal, remove her place card, and watch the adults celebrate the woman who had excluded her. If I refused, Mother would accuse me of dividing the family. Those were not equal risks. One threatened my reputation. The other threatened my daughter's understanding of love. I went upstairs and found Sophie sitting on the floor beside her bed with the handwritten menu folded in her lap. I told her exactly what Mother had said. No translation. No suggestion that she had misunderstood. I'm thinking of serving dinner anyway, I said. We invite everyone who was invited before. No argument, no attack, no demand that anyone choose sides. We open the door at 6:30 and feed whoever arrives. Sophie looked at me carefully. Grandma will say we ruined her birthday. She may. Trevor will blame you. Almost certainly. What happens if nobody comes? Then the three of us eat an unreasonable amount of pot roast. Her mouth almost smiled. I continued, but this is your dinner. I'm not turning it into my revenge. I need your permission. She looked down at the menu. Can I still serve the mushroom pie before the roast? You can serve it from the roof if you want. Then yes. She stood, changed back into the green dress, tied her apron over it, and returned to the kitchen. I wrote 2 messages. The first went privately to Mother. Happy birthday. I love you, but Eric and I will not attend a celebration that excludes Sophie after she prepared your dinner. Our table will remain set until tonight ends. Your place is waiting. You are welcome without conditions. She read it and did not respond. The second went to the family chat beneath her announcement. I attached a photograph of the full table and one of Sophie holding the walnut cake. Dinner will be served at our home at 6:30 as originally planned. Every person previously invited is still welcome, including every child. There is enough food, and no one needs to choose a side. Come hungry. I placed my phone in a drawer. I did not watch the responses because counting confirmations would have turned the dinner into a contest. We lit the candles, warmed the rolls, and let the evening become whatever it was going to become. At 6:18, Camille arrived with the twins and a bouquet of grocery store flowers still wrapped in plastic. I'm early because I assumed you would need help, and because I am too old to pretend this is normal, she said. At 6:24, Mallory's minivan pulled up. 3 children spilled onto the lawn carrying handmade birthday cards. Uncle Peter arrived next with an old bottle of root beer he had found in his basement because Great-Grandpa Walter used to serve the same brand. 2 cousins came, then our neighbors from across the street, whom Sophie had invited weeks earlier because they had no family nearby. By 6:35, 17 people were inside. 6 chairs remained empty. Mother's place stayed untouched in the middle of the table. Sophie stood near the kitchen doorway and welcomed everyone without mentioning the club. She served the mushroom pie first. The youngest children hated mushrooms but ate the crust. The roast arrived next, tender enough to break with a spoon. Uncle Peter tasted the gravy, put down his fork, and covered his eyes with one hand. That's Walter's, he said. I don't know how, but that's his. Sophie looked toward me, and for the first time since 4/22, I saw pride without caution on her face. Nobody toasted against Mother. Nobody mocked the Hawthorne Club. We talked about great-grandpa, the bakery, school, and whether Sophie should move to Chicago. Children sat beside adults. Camille's twins argued over the last roll. There was no head of the table, and no one seemed confused about where they belonged. At 8:15, Sophie carried in the walnut cake with 69 small candles divided between 2 trays because Eric had refused to create a fire hazard. We sang Happy Birthday to an empty chair. It could have felt cruel, but it did not. It felt like keeping a promise to the person who had chosen not to receive it. We removed the candles, and Sophie served everyone a slice. At 8:43, Camille posted a photograph in the family chat. It showed Uncle Peter laughing with frosting on his mustache and 3 children crowded beside him. Mallory posted a photograph of the menu. Eric posted nothing, but he turned his phone toward me when Mother's typing indicator appeared, disappeared, then never returned. We later learned what happened at the club through one of Camille's co-workers, who had been dining in the public room. Mother's private celebration included Lenore, Trevor, and his wife, 4 foundation board members, and 1 couple Mother barely knew. 10 people sat in a room prepared for 14. The chandelier was beautiful. The food was expensive. The conversation apparently died before dessert. Mother checked her phone repeatedly and left before coffee. I did not feel triumphant hearing that. I felt tired. Victory would have required wanting her to be lonely. I had only wanted her to understand that our presence was no longer guaranteed when it required someone else's humiliation. The final guests left shortly after 10. Sophie fell asleep on the sofa with the menu still folded in her hand. Eric carried the platters to the kitchen while I cleared the table. When I reached Mother's place, I turned over her card. Sophie had written something on the back in ordinary pen. I hope this tastes like home. I sat in the empty chair and cried quietly. Not because Mother had missed dinner, but because Sophie had offered something tender while already expecting it might be refused. I thought of every time I had encouraged her to lower her expectations instead of asking Mother to raise her behavior. That night, I decided apologies would no longer be extracted from children for accurately feeling hurt. Camille remained behind to dry dishes. Near midnight, while we stood in the kitchen, she told me something I had never known. When Mother married our father at 22, his parents considered her unsuitable. Her family had owned a roadside supper club, while the Harts belonged to a country club and treated hospitality as evidence of class. At her first Christmas with them, Mother was asked to help prepare dinner, but was not given a place at the dining table. She ate in the kitchen with the hired server. The following year, she was seated at the far end near the children. Only after Trevor was born did our grandmother move her into what she called a proper family position. She spent years being ranked, Camille said. Then she finally got control of the table and became the person doing the ranking. The story explained Mother's obsession with rooms, invitations, and presentation. It did not excuse what she had done. Pain can explain a weapon without giving someone permission to keep using it. The next morning, Eric and Sophie went to Morning Bell to return the borrowed platters and prepare Monday's dough. I stayed home. At 9:10, the doorbell rang. Through the glass, I saw Mother standing on the porch in yesterday's coat. She held a white box from the bakery across town and a folded envelope. She rang again, but did not try the handle. I let her wait long enough for me to breathe and remember that opening the door did not require surrendering the house. When I finally opened it, she looked past me toward the dining room. The table was still extended. Place cards remained scattered where the children had rearranged them. Her gold-bordered card sat alone in the center. Mother entered without removing her coat and placed the white box on the kitchen counter. "We need to correct what happened," she said. I poured coffee for both of us, but did not sit until she did. "What do you mean by correct?" "People are describing 2 competing parties. Lenore is humiliated. Trevor says the photographs made the club dinner look ridiculous. I didn't post photographs. Your guests did. They photographed their evening." Mother unfolded the envelope. Inside was a draft message she wanted me to send to the family chat. It described the situation as a scheduling misunderstanding and thanked everyone for helping create 2 wonderful celebrations. She had even written a sentence saying Sophie had generously agreed to postpone her dinner. "She agreed to nothing," I said. "This language allows everyone to move forward. It allows you to replace what happened with something prettier." Mother's mouth tightened. It was my birthday, and you were invited to the dinner you had accepted. Lenore surprised me. You knew the club rules excluded Sophie. She looked away. That small movement was the first honest answer she had given me. I pushed the draft back across the table. I'm not sending this. Her coffee cup touched the saucer with the sharp click that had ended family disagreements since I was a child. I waited. Nothing happened. She tried indignation first. She reminded me of the sacrifices she had made raising us. She listed the times she had helped at the bakery, cared for Sophie, and paid for school clothes. I agreed those things had happened. Gratitude did not require pretending last night had not. Then she tried negotiation. Fine. Sophie can host Easter brunch this year. I will make certain everyone attends. No, I'm offering her something important. You're offering her another opportunity to earn approval. Mother stared at me as though I had rejected currency she believed was accepted everywhere. Then what do you want? She asked. It was not yet an apology, but it was the first question. I looked at the white bakery box. What's inside? She hesitated before opening it. Inside sat one slice of Sophie's walnut cake. Camille had left it on Mother's porch after the club dinner with a note. You should know what you chose not to taste. Mother had carried the untouched slice to my house. Beside it lay a small, stained recipe card. Great-Grandpa Walter's handwriting crossed the front. Black walnut cake. Mother had found the original in an old tin after returning home. I thought she might want this, she said. Then give it to her. You can. No. I stood and took my keys from the hook. She's at the bakery. You're going to tell her why you changed the dinner. You're going to listen without correcting her. Then you're going to taste the cake in front of her and thank her for making it. Not me, her. Mother's face hardened. You're ordering me to apologize to a child. She became an adult 2 months ago, but even if she were 8, the apology would still be owed. And if I refuse, then you leave with the cake and the recipe. You will still be my mother. I will still love you. But you will not be invited into Sophie's life whenever it is convenient to perform closeness. The room became quiet. Mother looked toward the dining table, where her empty place remained visible. For nearly a minute, neither of us spoke. Then she closed the bakery box, picked up the recipe card, and said, You'll drive. At morning bell, Sophie was rolling biscuit dough behind the counter. The cafe was closed, chairs inverted on tables, morning sunlight stretching across the tile. When she saw Mother enter, her hands stopped. I remained near the door. This was not my conversation to manage. Mother placed the box on the counter and removed the recipe card. This belonged to my father, she said. Sophie wiped flour from her fingers but did not reach for it. Mother continued, I accepted another invitation because I wanted the club dinner. I knew you could not attend. I told myself you were young enough to understand and that your meal could happen later. That was selfish. Sophie's expression did not change, but her shoulders lowered slightly. Mother opened the box. Your aunt left this for me. Did you eat it? Sophie asked. Not yet. Sophie retrieved a clean fork and handed it to her. Mother tasted the cake standing beside the pastry case. She took one bite, then another. Her eyes closed briefly. When she opened them, the polish had gone from her voice. My father put orange zest in the frosting. Sophie nodded. One of Uncle Peter's memories mentioned orange peel on his hands. Mother looked at the cake. Nobody remembered that. He did. Mother finished the slice slowly. Then she placed the recipe card on the counter between them. This is better than his, she said. Sophie shook her head. It's his. I just wrote down the amounts. That answer broke something small and necessary in my mother. Her eyes filled, but she did not cry. She reached for Sophie's hand, stopped before touching it, and asked, May I? Sophie considered the question before turning her palm upward. Mother held it with both hands. I am sorry I treated your work like it could be moved to another date without changing what it meant. I am sorry I made you feel less important than a room. Sophie looked at me once, then back at her grandmother. I'm not cooking another birthday dinner to prove you mean that. I won't ask you to. And I'm not serving Easter at your house. Mother almost smiled. Your mother already declined that arrangement. Sophie finally took the recipe card. You can come to the cafe for lunch next Sunday. I'm testing a new soup. Am I allowed to bring Lenore? No. Mother laughed unexpectedly. It was not a large reconciliation. No music swelled. Sophie did not erase the night before because her grandmother had found the correct words once. But Mother had entered Sophie's workplace, stood on her side of the counter, and apologized without an audience. For our family, that was not nothing. Over the following weeks, the consequences settled into place. Trevor called me divisive, then admitted privately that he had left the club dinner early because it felt like attending a corporate retirement party. Camille stopped arranging childcare around events that excluded her children. Uncle Peter framed a copy of Walter's recipe card and hung it in his kitchen. Lenore referred to the entire episode as an unfortunate communication failure, which was the closest she came to acknowledging defeat. Mother did not become a different person overnight. She still notices inexpensive napkins. She still believes invitations should be mailed rather than texted. She still asks whether my dining room would look larger if I removed a cabinet I love. The difference is that her preferences no longer operate as family law. Sophie began hosting a monthly meal at Morning Bell after closing. She calls it the open table. There are no assigned seats. Children eat beside grandparents. Whoever arrives first folds napkins, and whoever stays latest washes pans. Mother attended the first dinner carrying flowers and no instructions. She sat near the middle beside Camille's twins. When one of them spilled lemonade near her sleeve, everyone went silent from old habit. Mother looked at the spreading puddle, lifted her glass, and said, "Apparently the mature atmosphere has been cancelled." The room laughed, including Sophie. Mother missed the next month for a foundation event. Nobody took it personally. That may be the greatest change of all. Her attendance is welcome, but no longer required for the evening to feel legitimate. Sophie leaves for culinary school in August. Her admissions essay begins with a cancelled birthday dinner and ends with 17 people eating around a table built for 28. She let me read it once after closing the cafe. In the final paragraph, she wrote that hospitality is not the art of impressing important people. It is the decision that nobody entering hungry should be made to earn a chair. I spent 30 years trying to become important enough for my mother's table. My daughter taught me something better in one evening. When a table requires rankings, the answer is not to fight for a higher seat. The answer is to build a place where rank has no use. Mother's gold-bordered card remains in a drawer at my house. I kept it not as evidence against her, but as evidence of the night we stopped waiting for permission. On the back, Sophie's message is still visible. "I hope this tastes like home." It did. My mother simply had to lose her preferred room before she understood where home had been waiting.